Welcome everyone, this is the fortnightly SIG etcd community meeting. My name is James, I'm one of the SIG etcd co-chairs. This is our fortnightly session with an open agenda. I will just put a link to our Google Doc in the chat, so anyone that is subscribed to our etcd dev Google Groups mailing list will be able to propose an agenda item in there. And if we have a quick look, we've got a few next topics to discuss. Let me just check, do we have Benjamin? Yes, and Merrick. So I will put those in for today's discussion. And first one is over to Benjamin around implementing a comprehensive diagnosis tool. Yep, over to you, Benjamin.
Could you share your screen?
Oh, certainly, yes. Sorry, thank you. I will do that now. Benjamin, for the diagnosis proposal, did you want to share and talk through that? And then I can come back after you.
Please, you can share your screen. Just one comment. Can you see? I don't have a Google Doc, just GitHub issue.
No problem. So it should be coming through now. Someone just give me a quick thumbs up if that's on its way.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, the high-level idea is, we based on my experience in both in upstream and downstream. Usually, when the user raises an issue on etcd, probably there's a long back and forth communication to provide this information, provide that information. There's a long back and forth. So I would like to deliver a comprehensive diagnostic tool. Just run this tool, generate a report, so you can get all the required information included. Yeah, this is one thing. This online generate on to generate that report based on a running etcd cluster. The second thing is to offline diagnose. For example, if the cluster is totally down, we need to recover the etcd cluster based on a data of one member. But the problem is we need to figure out which member is the best one to restore the cluster. So we need to figure out which member has the latest data. Yeah, so usually we depend on the commit index, which one has the biggest commit index. So we need to deliver a diagnostic tool to support this feature. Yeah, the other requirement is, for example, when the other common issue is about the run out of the space quota. The by default is 2 GB. If the user run out the space quota and the cluster is already done, then there's no way to do online diagnosis. We should do offline diagnosis. For example, the key point is to figure out. So we need to figure out the root cause. Why the Kubernetes run out of this space? This is the most important thing. Recover is super simple, just to compact the fragmentation. But the root cause is most important. So we need to do some analysis. But the class, if the class is already done, there's no way to do online diagnosis to do statistics. So we need to provide a tool to offline to analyze the data. For example, which resource consumes most of the space. For example, if there is an event, most likely it's something wrong in the Kubernetes cluster. If there's too much CRD, probably related to some controller or application, something like that. So I think, there are several scheduled tools. For example, the etcd diagnosis. This is my personal repo, do online to generate a report based on running cluster. We also have etcd dump logs to analyze the WAR files. And also we have etcd dump DB to analyze the DB file. So actually, we also have bbolt. Bbolt is for advanced user to do some deeper analyze the data. So I think probably we can deliver a comprehensive tool to integrate all the capability into one tool. I believe this feature to benefit the whole community. So the high-level idea, I propose to add a tool under the tools. We have our tools under the top root directory to add an etcd diagnosis tool under the tools directory. Once this tool is ready, we can deprecate the existing, for example, the etcd dump logs, etcd dump DB. This is high-level thought. Any comments?
Thanks, Benjamin. Just a bit of an idea. Have we considered putting more into etcd UTL? So the use cases you mentioned around, when a cluster is down and you don't have online, etcd CTL commands, have we considered just using etcd UTL? So if a user is trying to resolve an issue with their cluster, from a user experience perspective, they likely already have etcd CTL and etcd UTL bundled with their release. Having to go and download some additional binary from GitHub just to carry out a standard procedure of disabling a no space alarm or something like that, having that functionality within etcd UTL would reduce potentially a lot of friction.
Yeah, this is a good point. I already considered this. We have added etcd CTL, etcd UTL. etcd CTL is to online, is for online operation. etcd UTL is for offline operation. The diagnosis tool I'm going to deliver is a high-level tool. etcd UTL is a low-level tool. For example, if we want to figure out which member have the latest data, I don't think we should add such tool into the etcd UTL or etcd CTL, because this is even high-level functionality. Another example is when the user raises an issue, we need to generate a report. Actually, this report just, for example, the user can do this use the etcd CTL, for example, to do etcd CTL endpoint status and etcd endpoint health check and member list, something like that. We just combine all these commands into one command, something like that. So this is even high-level tool.
Yes, I see what you mean. Although, etcd CTL already provides quite low-level detail for specific commands. It's just from a user experience perspective, we already have these binaries out there, and they're already included in release. So if we're asking users to go and generate a data dump for us, or to use these tools to figure out more detail about their clusters, having those binaries already in front of them is a significant, improvement user experience wise than asking them to go and download some other binary. I think we should consider that further. Merrick, I think you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah. I definitely had a couple of questions. Like one, Benjamin, you mentioned debugging Kubernetes clusters, which a little bit changes, like for me, the scope of the problem, not necessarily like the goal, but the scope, because we have like debugging Kubernetes, you need to assume specific Kubernetes things that is not part of the etcd repo. It's the separate project. Remind me how it's called, like the
Augur.
Augur, yeah. So high level, I mean, I don't know if I would call it a tool, but or I see a couple of problems. One, what James mentioned, and I think Benjamin mentioned, that we have a lot of tools that seems like they belong to, shouldn't be separate binaries, but should be part of etcd UTL, because like they work on files and such. Other problem is debugging like Kubernetes. So you need to have a separate tool also to debug Kubernetes, the Augur. So someone currently needs to go for the download a separate binary, which is not. I personally worked on figuring out how to download and manage, have a separate download for Augur in GKE. To debug some cases, and I think we just got rid of it because it was too much to have work to have a separate tool, and the benefit was not huge. And the main the goal of what Benjamin mentioned, which I agree, is it's too complicated and slow for maintainers to basically piece by piece get a report by asking a list of usually same questions about, can you give me a response to this request, to this request, and this request. So there is also a need, high level of a diagnosis, or I don't know how you'd call it. Maybe I would call it like a dump tool that says, oh, like, I don't know anything. I don't know if I have access to etcd. I don't know if it's a very, I don't know if it's up or down. I want to everything that I can zip and send to, I mean, usually like this is more support. I don't know if we, like maintainers, we provide some support because, like I said, we ask set of questions during the debugging process when there is an issue. But this sounds like a support tool that could help like community, but also is a more like if we would want to provide a support for users, individual users tool. So I think the two first problems, or first problem definitely we should solve. Second problem, I don't have any like strong opinion. I don't think we should download Kubernetes specific like Protos into etcd project to create circular dependency, because we even can't, because it will create a circular dependency on Kubernetes Protos. Whether we can make it easier to have some Kubernetes, maybe. In the third case, we should maybe consider it. But I don't know if it should be tool or script or whatever, but I don't know if we should develop everything from ground up, but maybe someone can, if we had something working already used by people, we could develop it. We could start using it in the project. Yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
Like,
sorry, yeah, you know, the tool is not going to resolve all the issues. Just like I mentioned, Augur. Augur is one good example. Augur have more knowledge on Kubernetes protocol. So this diagnostic tool is not going to resolve the problem, which Augur is able to resolve. So this is not a tool for resolve all cases. So the first step is just to integrate what I already have. For example, etcd dump logs, etcd dump db, and on my personal tool, etcd-diagnose. So we can integrate all these three tools into one. This is the first goal. You know, the etcd dump db, etcd dump log is super useful for the user to debug the information, but the user need to download two tools, build the tools themselves. So I think the first immediate benefit we can get is to integrate all the three tools into one to deliver the functionality for the user. This is immediate benefit we can get.
Bogdan, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just kind of. So I think which we also observed this problem with the some object is growing, fast, let's say, or it's keep growing, right? I think that's a real issue, right? That probably hard to diagnose. So I guess as this is addressing that, right? So I'll kind of just nail down.
Okay, this will be solved in 134, so don't worry. Like, you can drop this. I can give you a spoiler. It will be solved. Like, you will get a metric.
Wait. So like, you mean the CRD like growing?
Yeah. We can talk offline. Yes.
Okay.
So Kubernetes leaking resources should not be in our scope of discussions, but we can in Kubernetes. So I would not want to spend time on it.
Okay, but I mean, it seems like the blog post kind of links to partially diagnosing that problem. But okay, if that not a problem, that's okay. Okay, that's. I just want to say that maybe start with the use cases that people wanna find, right? So I saw that kind of about figuring out what is growing, like what is consuming size, right? I seemed like that was.
Yeah, the Jira can open the issue. There's a couple of use cases, good stories. Why we have this diagnosis tool. Yeah, just like I mentioned, the first use case is just generate reports. No need to tell the user to run this command, run this command. Just run one command, generate reports. This is good. This is the first good use case. The second just mentioned, when the cluster is totally down, we need to recover the cluster based on the data of one member. So we need to figure out which member is the best. So this is the second good use case.
I think that's a perfect use case for etcd ETL. Like if you have a cluster that's down
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. LCD UTL can't do this. We need to figure out which member is the best. I don't think LCD UTL can do this. So the Bboard, probably Bboard can do this, but Bboard is too low level. And the third use case is to run out your quarter space. This is a very common use case. The default is 2 GB. When they run out of the space portal, and if the cluster is already down, then there's no way to figure. There's no way to. We need to. Just mention that the most important to figure out the root cause why the cluster run out of this quarter space. This is most important thing. Recover is pretty simple, just compact the defragmentation. But we need to figure out the root cause. We need to figure out which resource consumes most of the space. So we need to offline analysis. And another good use case is when the user, another use case probably is not listed in here, just another good use case. When the user updated the same key multiple thousands of times, then when you analyze the resource, probably the resource only one item, but probably there are thousands of revisions for one key. For that use case, there's no way to use LCD-UTL to analyze. So I will add that use case later in this list. So anyway, so in the first step, we just combine all the existing, for example, the LCD diagnose, LCD dump log, LCD dump DB, and also in the first step, just integrate all the capability. And the next step is open to discussion how to improve this tool.
Okay, so before we dive into any work, I'd invite the community to leave some feedback in the issue. Let's see what the consensus is from the team and go from there. Conscious of time, let's jump forward to the next item. Over to you, Marek, for the issue here on, was this the watch revision one? Let me open it up.
Yeah, so just an FYI, we had a discovery of a watch issue. I think at this point we have a full reproduction and unit tests that confirm that the issue exists. The problem is related to a watch of sending. When you send a watch that requests a future revision to etcd, you can still etcd might not fully or in that situation we noticed at least 2 issues. We have debugged and found and have a fix for one, which is progress notifications. You might request a future revision or to start monitoring from the future revision, but you will start get old progress notifications that are about the previous. And usually this is not a problem because, like in Kubernetes and in any system, you will not ask about future revision because usually you don't start from watch. But this is a problem when you have a load balancing, because you might be talking to the newest, freshest, like leader with the freshest data, and then when there is network disruption, load balancer will or etcd-CTL, if you have multiple hosts provided, it will automatically switch to the other members, and this is great, but it causes the exact case that you switch from fresher member to more lagging member that that didn't have observed the revision, and this will be totally transparent from a client point of view, and you will basically start getting all their previous progress notification. So you will have a series of of events growing up, and then progress notification, and then progress notifications about all the revisions, and then the stream. So basically, so high level, the timeline replays and goes back in time, which is a little bit similar to the previous issue. To my knowledge, this is not a huge problem for Kubernetes, because as an eventually strongly consistent system, you will just replay, like if you will get the same history of events, you will just replay it and overwrite your state so that the bug will be temporary on your side. But for systems that depend on like the events and don't like replay, this is like a critical break. Like this is we are breaking technically uniqueness of the watch guarantees, which means you should not get the same event twice. Or here maybe so-called bookmarkable, so you should not get old bookmarks about like history. So yeah, that's high level. There is a fix. Hopefully we'll. And there is no huge impact on Kubernetes. It affects all etcd versions, and hopefully we'll fix it soon.
Just one comment. Yeah, for the we have the guarantee, API guarantee for the watch, for the bookmark. Probably we should update the guarantee. Currently, we just mentioned all the events up to the progress notification release should be delivered. So we should update to the notification release should decrease, should never decrease.
I mean, I include this as an ordered, which is a separate property, which is overall like events or responses in etcd should never decrease. So it should always be like or somewhat ordered, or maybe you're right that ordered by default applied to events, that events should be ordered, and didn't mention progress notifications.
Yeah.
Or a relation between events and progress notifications, but that's true. Both should be ordered. And so, yeah, maybe that could be one improvement in documentation.
Yeah, just clarify, including both even normal watch response and the notification, just the clarification. And more concern is about, I see your very first comment, there's a response, include event with smaller revision, with the watch reservation, that's the problem.
Yes, I haven't reproduced this one, but we have a reproduction in robustness tests. I haven't managed, that's much more rare, so I don't know still what happens there. So yes, I managed, maybe I should clarify there. We added a new thing in robustness test, and it found two breakages of two different rules, and those rules should be independent. And we confirmed and fixed, have a fix for one rule, which is bookmarkable, which applies to bookmarks. So in Kubernetes, bookmarks, or in etcd, it's called progress notifications. So we have fix for that and reproduction, but we don't know still with the second, which is resume. I don't know. So, resume, being able to resume, which includes events. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, we can keep watching. Yeah, keep watching test.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Mark. There's some good discussion in the issue for anyone that's keen to have a little bit more of a read on that, and there's a draft PR open for one aspect as well. Okay, on to the next one. Conscious of time, it's another one for you, Marek, on this is 20182. Method of tracking Kubernetes use of etcd APIs.
Yeah, so this is work of Alexander, or Awesome Patrol. So he's one person on my team. He is also from Poland, so he couldn't attend so late. So I'm trying to represent him. High level, this is extension of the work of robustness test and Kubernetes testing, with the tackling the problem that we had identified a couple of ways that how Kubernetes uses etcd, but and we can try to write them down, and maybe we'll get most of them. But until we have some semi-official process that would automate, instead of reading the code ourselves, until we have a semi-automated process, we will not be ever sure that we got everything, and we will never be sure that we are up to date with what Kubernetes does. So to make sure that etcd correctly tests for the surface that is important for Kubernetes, Alexander is proposing to have a, let's say, semi-manual process of basically documenting in a README, hey, if you start Kubernetes this way and you configure tracing, you can collect the dumps from the tracing and get all the requests that Kubernetes did to etcd, and then correlate those requests between Kubernetes and etcd and find which we are covering, which we are not covering. So this is the goal here, is completeness of testing, of Kubernetes, how Kubernetes interacts with etcd. So the end result from it, like this effort, would be improving that, because we Alexander proposed to use tracing. The end goal would be to improve tracing in both Kubernetes and etcd, and adding a documentation to etcd project how you would run it, and how you would read the results. And the results would be to say, hey, we are testing, like, let's say, those 5 calls, but we didn't test this call, so someone should add a test. Yeah, that's all. Like, asking for feedback, asking for people thoughts. This should, like, in the end, outside the fixes, this should be like maybe a small test, a documentation, maybe a small test that we are that the tests are testing what they should.
Okay, just one comment. You just mentioned 2 things. The first is about I'm not fully follow the details. The first thing seems like to test the coverage to, the Kubernetes etcd interface. So how many interfaces are covered by the test? Is that one of the purpose of this task?
So part of this test will be also the tool or the process will also tell you which requests are within the interface and which requests are not in interface. So basically, to answer, have Kubernetes added any new requests that we haven't covered?
Okay. Okay, so there's Kubernetes at the interface. So probably some requests from Kubernetes are not part of in the interface list.
Yes.
Okay.
So this will be able to identify and tell you what are those, and
okay,
with us adding them to interface and adding them to tests in etcd.
Okay, it's interesting. So you just adding the test to cover that interface are not in the contract list. So are you going to update the contract to add the new interface?
So that's a separate work stream that should be following up. Like, we will, this issue will give us a process that will say, oh, we are missing, I know, this request, and then we can take this list of requests and follow up with improvements into the interface.
Okay, got it. The second question, the quick question, the second one, you also mentioned the trace. I'm not sure what's the relationship between the trace and this task?
So tracing is a way that we can automate the goal of, oh, here is Kubernetes project that has 100,000 lines of code, and it sends some requests to etcd, and someone would need to find all those calls and say what arguments are passing, which are not, and which situations. So the goal is to, let's not do that by reading code. Let's just run the binary and collect the traces, and we can analyze the traces. So here, a trace is a distributed system trace, which is basically a way for observability to give you history of how the call was done through the code. So you can see, oh, here you would get which call on etcd creates which call on Kubernetes calls which call on etcd, and which ones go through the interface.
Okay, we already integrated with the distributed trace. So is it part of that effort?
So would be improving, adding more traces. So one is you support tracing, and second one, what kind of spans and what kind of what is there interesting? What kind of metadata you have in tracing? So supporting tracing doesn't mean you have a full coverage. Like supporting Prometheus metrics doesn't mean you have metrics for everything.
Team, just conscious of time, we probably need to wind things up a little bit. I do just want to double check, actually, just before we move on, anyone that has thoughts on that, we've got an open issue for the proposal that Marek's talking through. So please leave your questions and thoughts in the issue, and we'll discuss it offline. We've got a agenda item here from Carol. Is your item time sensitive? Must we discuss it this fortnight, or can it wait for the next call in a fortnight's time?
Yeah, I think we can wait. I just would like to introduce myself. Like you can do click in the etcd self-assessment right up to only to open, and just shared that explain a little that is from initiative from the SIG security to start, and we only want to introduce ourselves and check for your support. Also is Kaylin here. I don't know if you want to say something more, Kaylin.
Hey.
Yeah.
Cool, welcome team. So we are on time, so we will wind things up, but be great to have you back in 4 nights' time, and we'll make sure you're the first agenda item for the next session. With that, thanks everyone for coming along, and we hope to see